On Business Incorporated today, Nigeria's equity market skyrockets at intraday, and the board chairman of Ethiopia Airline resigns. Kenya's banking industry balance sheet crosses 6.5 trillion shillings mark. Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, let's get into the markets as usual. Let's start with very exciting news from Nigeria. A new mark has been hit by the NGX. We see it hitting 57,000. There you have it, 57,211.40. And it's because of a 2.29% increase on the all-share index at intraday. So the market is not even over yet. And I can tell you the banking stocks led this. We'll delve into that in just a couple of minutes now and find out the details from someone who is on the floor. But let's go to South Africa. It's also positive there, 1.26%. In Egypt, almost 1%, 0.91%, 17,865.78, while Kenya closed Monday deeply in the red, 1.91%. Well, let's see if we can speak to Tajuddin Olayinka now. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Wyoming Capital and Partners, and he will give us details of this trade, this exciting trade on the NGX at intraday. Good afternoon, Mr. Olayinka.
Good afternoon, Ini. My pleasure being with you.
Good. So what are you guys doing to the market? I thought the excitement was over after the comments by the president on, unifying the FX rate. What's driving this excitement again?
The excitement is coming from the fact that, the president said, we want, exchange rate to be unified. In other words, to have a single exchange rate for the market. But that was not going to happen by fiat, and so market expected that the CBN will allow market to function. In other words, we allow law of one price to prevail. But that was also not forthcoming, and so because of that, CBN. The president now decided to remove or suspend the governor of central bank. So that suspension means that yes, they were not likely to achieve that with the current governor of central bank, or they were not likely to achieve those fundamental reforms that they need to deploy to drive activities in the economy. So market is actually reacting to the fact that we are not likely to have a governor of central bank that will be more, that is more of an anti-market, because most of his policies are not, market friendly. So market is trying to find that we are going to have a new market, a new economy that will support the market, and which market will also support the economy, vice versa. So it's actually a demonstration of the fact that market is now going in the right direction. You can't be talking of unifying the exchange rate and at the same time trying to devalue currency. So that's not what is called. That is not what is called unification. So market is actually now expecting the fact that yes, we are going to have a unification that is market driven, not the one that CBN is trying to put in place.
So I noticed before coming on that the banking stocks are receiving a lot of attention. Could you give us the details? Which of the stocks are investors really excited about giving attention to at this time?
In almost all the banking stocks, we have GTCO in the lead, followed by Zenith. Actually, First Bank. In fact, before now, maybe about 10 of them were, about 7 of them were in the lead, but now virtually all of them are actually in that bracket, leading the trail. Because it's quite expected. Once you say you are going to have a reform in central bank, it means that you are going to have a better banking system. The banking system has been somewhat suspect, not something that anybody will want to talk about, because it's not shining at all. It's not a shining news at all. With the way the banking sector has been battered, all sorts of regulations that are not market friendly. The banking sector has actually suffered, but that sector seems to be the one that's going to drive growth in the economy. And so, market is actually compensating that sector for that, and that's why you see banking stocks, taking the lead. Virtually all the banking stocks are in the green.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tajuddin Olayinka, Chief Executive Officer of Wyoming Capital and Partners. And well, we do hope that this bull run will continue and hold on for a bit. It might be late for some people to get on the market, but we'll watch and see. Thank you so much. All right, let's move to other markets now. The sentiment seems to spread to a lot of the markets in the Middle East. Abu Dhabi is positive 0.23%. Dubai also positive 0.16%. And still within that region, Saudi Arabia follows suit 0.29%. Qatar, however, is on the flip side, is down 0.72%. And moving on to Berlin now, not very good news coming from German car maker Volkswagen. It has been under pressure for years with the Dieselgate scandal, internal problems, and most recently, a drop in sales. Well, Lars Holter joins us now from Berlin to give us more insight into this. Hi, Lars, good afternoon. So management is planning major changes at the company. What do we know about this? What are we expecting?
Yes, thanks for having me. There's a lot to unpack here. Oliver Blume has been CEO of Volkswagen for about a year now, and he's used his time at the helm of the company to look into all the details at all the different brands. And there's lots of them, and each with their own individual problems. After all, Volkswagen includes not only its namesake brand, but also, of course, Porsche and Audi, as well as the lower price Skoda, Seat, and Cupra. Altogether, Volkswagen has 12 brands under its roof and employs 600,000 people. Now, those last few brands I mentioned here, Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, and Cupra, they will be run closer together in future according to Volkswagen's plans, meaning there's going to be more platform sharing and closer cooperation when it comes to the planning of new series or new models. And there will generally be fewer models per brand, with Volkswagen deciding not to serve every customer in every niche anymore, but instead focus on volume, commit to where they can actually sell a certain number of cars. That should ideally lower costs in the brands, and cutting costs is key for the company. When all is said and done, management wants to see profits rise by 5 billion euros per year, and much of it, of course, from cost cutting. Now, CEO Blume calls his plan the biggest restructuring in the history of Volkswagen, which I guess can be seen as a bit of criticism of his predecessor too, who had already tried exactly that.
So help us to understand, take a few steps back. How did they get into this predicament?
Volkswagen has probably just become too big. The company has grown by acquisitions over decades, buying other brands and also growing those brands to include ever more models. Now, today, the company has a lot of parallel structures, including in research and development, where too much money is being wasted. Also, sales have been weaker, of course, recently. There was the pandemic with its supply chain problems. There's a weaker economic environment right now, and there's well-documented problems with Volkswagen's switch to electric mobility. We just saw that recently in China, where Volkswagen in the first quarter of this year actually lost its top spot in the car market to Chinese competitor BYD. Now, add to that the penalties Volkswagen had to pay over its Dieselgate emission scandal. It's time for the company to make some changes.
So how are investors reacting to this? Are they optimistic about these changes?
Investors will take all this probably with a grain of salt, I'm sure. Most of what's known of Volkswagen's plans right now makes a lot of sense. The problem is that Volkswagen had tried similar restructuring a few times over the past years. It wasn't for lack of trying. Rather, they never really succeeded in implementing necessary changes. And this time, management says they're serious. Implementing the planned changes is what it's all about. And insiders say that there could be major personnel shakeups at brands that don't get on board fast enough. But I'm sure investors know, just as management knows, that restructuring only goes so far, and that for long-term success, Volkswagen has to just focus on products people want to buy in the future, which of course means they have to focus a lot more on e-mobility and commit fully to that segment.
All right, thank you so much, Lars Holter, for giving us the details of that. Talk to you tomorrow. Let's move over to the UK now. Julia and I standing by in our studio, and it's not, some uncertainty going on right there, Juliana. Good afternoon. This issue about the incident at Nottingham, could you tell us what you have learned so far?
Good afternoon, Innie. You're right. Not great news coming out of England today. In fact, this is still very much an ongoing story, and Nottinghamshire police have a major incident on their hands. I think anybody in the UK would have woken up to the news that Nottingham, which is a city just a couple of hours out of the capital, London, very much a young city. We've got 3 universities there. It was cordoned off, and it's still cordoned off because we were updated by police at 9 a.m. that a 31-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of murder following 4 separate incidents that police believe to be connected. That began at about 4 a.m. this morning, where 2 individuals are believed to have been mowed down by a vehicle. In a separate incident, a third individual was found dead. And then in another incident, all within a mile's radius of each other, another 3 individuals have been hospitalised, and we're not sure whether or not they were mowed down by this van or whether or not they were stabbed to death. Of course, as to be expected, there is wild speculation currently ongoing on Twitter, and it all bears the hallmark of a terror incident, which, of course, as you know, Britain hasn't been a stranger of. In fact, in terms of mowing down individuals and stabbing people on these sporadic attacks, we've seen them not just here in London, but across the UK, most notably in London Bridge and Westminster. As I said, this is of particular concern, especially to our community, the Nigerian community, because we know that there are 3 main universities in Nottingham, one being the University of Nottingham. There's also Nottingham Trent University, and there is a significant law university there at the moment. Now, again, police are saying this is an ongoing situation. They are asking people not to speculate, but considering the time this incident took place at 4 a.m. in the morning, there are some concerns that perhaps those who may be victims of this attack could have been young students on their way home from a bar or a night out. We do have a statement from the Prime Minister, which, please, if you would allow me to read. This is from Rishi Sunak, who has been, of course, at the London Tech Week conference, which is going on at the moment in the capital. He says that he wants to thank the police and the emergency services for their ongoing response to the shocking and violent incident which is taking place in Nottingham, and he's keeping people updated on the developments. The police must be given their time to undertake their work. My thoughts are with those injured and their family and loved ones at this time. As I said, it's still a developing story, and we're not sure whether or not anybody else is involved. There is a 31-year-old man who has been arrested. There's lots of footage on social media showing this apparent arrest, but the fact that there are still lots of armed police, the fire service and the ambulance still very much on the scene, and most of Nottingham is cut off. We're not sure whether or not this individual was working alone or with other culprits, but pretty significant. And as I said, the developing story out of the United Kingdom at the moment is that this 31-year-old man has been arrested for the deaths of 3 individuals. There are at least 3 others in hospital, and this has taken place in Nottingham, which is just a couple of hours outside of London, a very popular city with university students. But of course, we are on top of this story.
Yeah, I trust you to be on top of that, and we do wish there'll be, a quick investigation. But the other side of what's going on in the UK is the inflation numbers and investors' reaction to that. How's that moving the market?
Yes, I have seen that the Office for National Statistics have released the unemployment data this morning, showing that unemployment crept up by about 0.1%. So unemployment still historically low at about 3.9%. But I think what's interesting out of the data that's come out of the ONS today, is about wages. And believe it or not, even though we are still going through a significant cost of living crisis, wage growth has picked up in the 3 3 months to April, I believe, from about 6.8% from the previous quarter to about 7.2%. Now, this is great if you are somebody who's been lucky enough to receive a pay rise. Most of those people are those working in the NHS who, of course, managed to reach a deal with the Health Secretary, Stephen Barclay. But this is a headache for the central bank, the Bank of England, who are going to meet next week, Thursday, at Threadneedle Street to discuss interest rates, which are currently at about 4.5%, but are expected to be hiked up to about 5% to combat inflation. Now, the reason why this is a headache is because, of course, if you are one of the lucky few who have more money in your back pocket, you are going to spend more, and that's going to push up inflation. And at the moment, the central bank want to keep that down. So more headache for them, and of course for mortgage borrowers or anybody who has a large loan in the UK, because as interest rates go up, so does your monthly payment. So we'll be keeping a close eye on what happens next week, Thursday, at the MPC decision.
All right, Juliana, thank you so much. We'll certainly follow up on that. All right, now let's take a break. When we come back, on the other side, we do have stories for you from the African continent. Interesting ones you want to know. Welcome back to Watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. We'll start from Ethiopia, where Mr. Giwa Wake has resigned as the chairman of Ethiopian Airlines. His resignation comes just a couple of days amid the outrage over the inauguration of Nigeria Air to the end, 3 days to the end of the former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, where he confirmed that he was no longer serving in the role, but refused to elaborate on the circumstances surrounding his exit from the company. However, Ethiopia's federal authorities are yet to disclose the reason for his resignation. Mr. Wake served as the Chief Executive Officer of Ethiopian Airlines from 2004 to January 2011, and as the board chairman of Rwanda Air, as well as advisor to the Minister of Transport in Rwanda. In total, he's been in the airline industry for more than 30 years. Ethiopian Airline owns 49% equity stake in Nigeria Air. I can tell you that there'll be more development on other sides of that story in a couple of days. Let's go to Kenya now, where the banking industry balance sheet size stood at 6.5 trillion shillings as of December 31st, 2022, corresponding to 66% of Kenya's gross domestic product in the same period. According to a 2023 Kenya Banking Industry Report by Augusto Market Intelligence, this is as a result of the banking industry's growth and has, over the past decade, contributed, and it can be attributed to the thriving mobile industry in that country. Let's discuss commodities now, and joining us for that conversation is Victoria Momo. Victoria Momo is an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Joins us virtually to discuss avocado, a favorite of a lot of people, and a healthy one now in Africa. It's called green gold. But let's look at what Victoria wants to discuss about this. Victoria, so give us a background. We do know that avocado can sometimes remain in the background and seem not so important. But what are the factors that influence? You've seen the outlook that is going to, there's an estimate that it will grow by 20% year on year in the third quarter of this year. Why? What's driving this?
Thank you very much, Ini, for your question. I'll start by saying that crude oil actually is popularly known as, a black gold. That is because of the money that is being earned from the sales of crude oil, and then avocado has actually earned the name green gold, and that is because of the potential that the commodity actually possesses in the global market. That is in terms of revenue generations and the likes of it. And then we have a few African countries actually taking advantage of that opportunity and making massive revenue from the production of avocado. The global demand for avocado has been on the rise from major importers like the UK, Europe, and then we have we have that demand gap. There is increased demand for the commodity, and the supply is actually at a lower level. And then, like you rightly said, there is a projection that the supply for avocado would increase in Q3 of this year, and that is due to the fact that there is a favorable outlook for global supply of avocado in major countries that actually produce avocado. For example, in California, it is expected that they would have, bumper harvest in Q3 compared to last year when the harvest was between Q2 of 2022. And then there is Peru and Mexico that are all expecting bumper harvest in Q3 of 2023. So these countries are actually major producers of avocado. And then when there is an increase in supply of avocado, we would see that prices of this commodity would reduce a little bit and make it cheaper for importing countries to actually buy.
So let's look inwards now. What potential does Nigeria have in this respect, in respect of producing avocado, especially because we've seen Kenya move from being a subsistence producer of avocado to being the 6th largest producer in the world, and of course the leading in Africa?
It may interest you to actually note that Kenya was not the leading producer in like 6 years ago, but they were able to overthrow South Africa and become the leading producer of avocado. And that is because there have been several policies they put in place to actually attain that position as the leading producer of avocado in Africa. And we have the policies like increased investment in the production of avocado, particularly the species that is required in the global market, and that is the enhanced species. So they've been able to direct investment to that particular species to meet the international standard of avocado. And then we also see, favorable trade policies in the country, which has also improved the production of avocado in Kenya. And for example, there was a trade agreement with China where Kenya has to produce 40% of avocado or supply 40% of avocado to the Chinese to meet their demand. And of course, the Chinese were able to reduce import duties for exporters of avocado from Kenya to about 7% from 30%. That, of course, has continued to encourage them to produce and export avocado to the global market and other countries that are in need of it. I mean, Nigeria actually has this potential because we have the land in the southwestern region, because we produce avocado domestically or locally to meet our local demand. But then again, we still need to import this particularly enhanced avocado that is needed in the global market to meet our own, domestic demand for it. And we can see most of all of those avocado in big malls, in supermarkets. That's where we have this particular enhanced avocado, but we are yet to produce sufficiently to meet our local demand, as well as also export to generate more revenue. And I can tell you that avocado has a lot of potential in terms of revenue generation, because the demand for it continues to grow from major importers like the UK, Netherlands, and also it presents this opportunity for countries like Nigeria to take advantage of it, to build our forex earnings, as well as create job opportunities, because avocado actually has a very, very large value chain.
All right, Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and findings with us on avocado, especially as it has to do with production in Nigeria. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, let's end in South Africa, where infrastructure development, renewable energy investment, and energy security was one of the many topics, some of the many topics explored at the China-South Africa New Energy Investment and Cooperation Conference, with Cabinet Ministers Pravin Gordhan and also Ramaphosa, along with the President of South Africa China Economy and Trade Association, Chen Longjian, and other industry experts taking part in a discussion about the country's infrastructure and energy challenges, as well as what lies ahead. The conference aims to strengthen cooperation in new energy between the two nations, assist South Africa in coping with the current power crisis, and seek ways to build a strong economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll certainly have more on that summit, on especially our foreign programs, Network Africa, and other programs on Channels Television. So do stay with us and you get the full details of that. But that's where we draw the curtains on Business Incorporated today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Minnie John Meko. Enjoy the rest of your day.